would just do a sort of quick, as long as my wax tablet has wax, so to say, live stream on me getting dressed, because I'm dressing myself this morning because I've been awake for hours and it's cold and I need to get dressed and I can't wait for my ladies in waiting to help me. In fact, the ensemble I've chosen for today is very self-doable, so I don't really need help for this, even though I do like to have assistance getting dressed. It just makes the experience more enjoyable. But here it is. Today I am wearing a camora, or a cotta, from Florence, dating to the 1480s. And this is actually what I call a Pennsic gamora, because I made this 23 years ago before I had a real clue about anything, and resources were sparse and really unavailable at that time anyway. So lots and lots of mistakes. For example, on the lacing holes, I punched out the holes with a hole punch instead of doing the right thing, which is using an awl to poke open a hole. So these holes are giant all the lacing holes are giant and weak. So yeah, I also didn't know how to finish lacing holes at that time properly. I just did a plain whip stitch, which, yes, there are plenty of examples of medieval and Renaissance garments with lace holes that are just simply whip stitched, but there's also a nicer way. You can see my recent tutorial on that, in fact, on making medieval or historic lacing holes and grommets that will actually be strong and are also historically accurate. So I just released a detailed tutorial on that, 7 minutes long. You can check that out on this channel if you like. I think I literally call it a time to stab, a time to sew. Yeah, so I'm just getting myself dressed. I've put on my kimura, and now we're going to sort of vaguely arrange the kamicha, that's this linen under thing, to get it into position so that it can be pulled alluringly through the sleeves to create delightful white puffs, so to say. How long those puffs will remain white is a matter of debate. But I'm not going to actually finish the sleeve puffing until I've laced up the gown, but I just want to get the kamicha all situated, more or less situated, before I do the lacing. And now let me grab some lacing, because I realized that I put it away last night. Tap to retry what? Something went wrong. Tap to retry. Okay. Oh! Grüße aus Deutschland. Achte meine Güte, es ist ja schon spät dort. So, well, thank you for watching from Germany. It's really late there. Yeah, so let me know if you can't hear me or anything like that. The unfortunate problem about, me live streaming is I can't necessarily tell if sound is coming through or not. So I'm actually going to use a lace that I finger loop braided a while ago. This is actually made of linen. And we have extant, although we don't actually have, I haven't found any inventory evidence or documentary evidence of linen laces. We have actual archaeological finds of linen laces. They don't often survive, but sometimes they do. And actually in Schloss Lengberg, they actually found, amongst the trove of thousands of textile bits that they found, they did in fact find linen finger loop braiding. So actually had this nice blue yarn and linen yarn, and it finger loops so beautifully. So we're just going to use that for this. Now I'm doing what's called spiral lacing. And so what I do is I actually go through the bottom twice to create an entire loop like this. And then I go up to the next hole, the offset hole, the one that actually starts the spiral. And that gives me a nice tight fit here in the waist, and it keeps it from getting off kilter, so to say. So we go through the second hole, and yeah, so I really should put a point on this, and I wish to God that there were a pointer in residence here at Pennsic, because literally chapes, the metal ends that go in laces, should not really be formed in advance and then put on the lace. They should actually be formed around the lace. The metal sheet should just be formed around the lace and then riveted on there. It's much easier to do it that way than to make a metal chape and try to squish a lace up into it. And so there were literally in the Middle Ages men, pretty much only men, if your last name is Pointer, that means your ancestor at some point made chapes and attached them to laces like this, because it was a big was an essential item for garments, medieval or martial and civilian. So I really need to attach one to this, but thankfully, because I punched out these holes with a hole punch instead of an awl, they're giant, and so I can mostly just fit this through without an actual metal end. I have waxed the end with beeswax to give it some kind of pointy cohesion, but that is mostly worn away, and so I really do need to re-wax it. But it's really cold here this morning, so I'm definitely just going to be just proceeding apace.
Is that your white card on
it? It is not. We know not to whom that belongs.
I think I do, and they're assholes.
Ah, very good, sir. Our neighbors are very nice. Okay, so lacing along, let me just see if there's any questions. Oh, I do have Instagram. Absolutely, I have Instagram. Yeah, the Creative Contessa on Instagram. I also have TikTok. I'm also on Discord. I'm on Facebook. Let's see. Yeah, so I am on all of those fora. In fact, I just did a whole bunch of posting this morning, pretty much everywhere except for Discord. It's not really a place where you just post things, so to say. So I did some posts on TikTok. I did a post on Instagram. I did a post on my Facebook page, the Creative Contessa Facebook page, and I did a post here on YouTube, and now I'm live streaming on YouTube, so yeah. So we just go up and up. And this gown is self-supporting. So for those of you who are out there wondering, I'm not wearing any separate breast support. This gown gives me all the support I need, and it's designed that way. It is tailored to do so. Now, some ladies have more ample bustage, shall we say, and so they might require more, and there is not much evidence in this period of separate breast support. There's a mention in some inventories of a busto, a bodice, which maybe, as a separate item, which maybe possibly could be such an item that maybe laces on under the gamora, and you might be able to see that actually as a garment of a separate color, basically covering the lacing here, and it's this like this colored fabric that you can see coming through the lacing. Possibly that might be a busto under the gown itself, maybe. There is no evidence of stiffening, though, no evidence of reed stiffening. At least I have not found evidence of any kind of boning, as it were, in this era. And if you look at the imagery, you see that the silhouettes are very soft. It's a soft, rounded silhouette. So, okay, all laced up. So now that I'm laced up, I'm just going to adjust my kamicha. And if I hadn't been talking to you, dear viewer, I might have paid more attention to what I was doing with my kamicha, because there's actually a clever way to arrange your kamicha front at the beginning so that you don't get too much bunching here in the center. Well, maybe on the next Get Ready With Me video I'll demonstrate that, because I'm confident there will be more. So this is just the foundational layer. This is the base layer. As a lady of means and station, I might perhaps wear just this inside that, but only inside sort of my private part of the house. Never in a public venue would I, as a lady, go outdoors dressed thusly. Not in Florence, anyway. So there will be another layer coming on. It is not the fanciest layer I own. It's called a gonella, and you will recognize it once I put it on from numerous Botticelli paintings, actually, both fantastical and portraiture. But he uses it as a fantastical layer, but it is in fact a real kind of house dress that goes over top of everything. So now I'm just adjusting the sleeves, and this is the part where it is actually easier to have a lady in waiting, and I will have a lady in waiting at some point who will help me adjust these. I can do the puffs some justice, but it is definitely better if someone else helps. So I just go poof, pull, pull, and what's important before you actually start doing your puffing is getting all of this even, like so. So last night it grew a very, very cold for outdoor sleeping. Thankfully, I have the bed that I have, see the 2 previous live streams on setting up my bed for more details. And the canopy definitely helped keep me much warmer because unfortunately in the night I did have to powder my nose twice for having hydrated so well yesterday, which meant I had to exit the warm bower of my bed and I could see my breath. It was so cold last night. So, what I will be doing tonight to sleep, because I forgot, it's been so long since I've done this kind of sleeping that I've forgotten all my techniques for survival in a non-climate controlled nighttime environment, and that is I will be wearing my silk stockings, but not the ones that I wore during the day, not the dirty ones. So what I'll do tonight when I change to go to bed, I will take off my dirty stockings and I will put on a clean pair of stockings for sleeping, and then those will just be the stockings I wear during the day tomorrow. And that will allow my feet to stay much warmer, but also if I have to get up and go somewhere in the middle of the night, then it will be much less awful of an experience because I will not be exposing my poor little feet to the freezing cold air in that manner. Okay, so yes, you'll see there's a lot of fussing with this kind of sleeve, and it is what it is. But once it's done, once you've made all the adjustments, it pretty much stays that way the whole day. I'm just gonna tug, tug, tug. And this is one of those dresses where I had grand plans and I didn't quite finish it in time, so I just said, well, I'll add the extra slits and puffs that I plan to do later. And as anyone out there who is a sewist knows, if you do not finish a project before you wear it for the first time, you're unlikely to ever go back to it and do anything else to it beyond what you needed to do to get it ready. Okay, so here is the Gamora. Yes, my hair's a mess. This is my sleeping hair. I actually slept in my white linen coif, you know, what people might call a bed cap. Yeah, that's just a white linen coif from my normal day wear, and I just wear it at night to help keep my head warm, which is lovely. And I've already got my stockings on. I put these on before I started the live stream. These are silk knit stockings, and there is evidence of this kind of in the second half of the 15th century in Italy and going into the 16th century. For sort of the Mediterranean parts of the world, because for whatever reason knitting seems to have kind of come up from Egypt, from the Middle East. And Northern Europe, there doesn't seem to be evidence of knit stockings until well into the 16th century, for whatever reason. Even though in Paris, there is an established knitters guild by 1506, so, you know, I don't know what's going on there. But they were making mostly knit caps, apparently, rather than stockings. I'm not certain why it took them so long to make the transition. I guess it's probably easier to make a knit cap than stockings. I don't knit. I understand the concept in general, in theory, but I've never done it in practice. So if you're a knitter, sound off in the comments and let me know if you think that might be why hats came first and then stockings followed. I'm just going to check the comments. Yeah, so the comment was, I'm really enjoying this. I went to Pennsic once. And I hope to come back again, sort of paraphrasing. Yeah, so I actually went to every Pennsic for the first 17 years of my medievalist life, and then I missed several in a row, and the first one I missed, it was very hard to miss it. I didn't know how life could go on without going to Pennsic, and then the next year it was easier, and then the next year it was even easier, but then I finally came back, and then COVID hit, and then there was a couple of years with no more Pennsic, so... I was here last year. It was a much smaller event. By the way, there are already 5,000 people on site. It is already an immense event, just the first setup weekend. So yeah, it's going to be a big one this year. Pretty big. Last night, the night was glorious. I'll be posting some amazing photos I took. We had a almost full moon, just stunning over the lake. Truly magical moments for our nighttime walk around the lake last night. Yeah. Okay, so murder's heat of Pennsic summer. That is a rumor. Highs, it is often not hot. There are some Pennsics where it's a hot Pennsic, but the average Pennsic temperatures are in the upper 70s, lower 80s. So it's fine. There might be a couple of hot days, but most of it is not. Temperatures have been in the mid 70s. Basically, Friday was brutal. It was like 96 degrees, but Saturday it was 81. Yesterday it was 73. Today it's going to be 74, which is for the the people using a much more modern method of measurement than Fahrenheit. On Friday it was like 35 degrees, and then Saturday it was like 27, and then yesterday it was 24. Today it's going to be 24 again. So quite nice actually, and perfect levels of humidity. Not too hot, not too wet, not too dry. But my heat survival tips. So while I put this other layer on, I'll show you my other layer. This is my other layer. Okay, so it doesn't look like much in this form. It takes its shape on top of me. So, heat survival tips in any sort of historic garments, specifically medieval and Renaissance. If first off, you want to make sure that you have something covering your head, keeping the sun off of it. Ideally, if it's white and linen, that's the best. A white veil or whatever. Oh, one of our campmates has arrived.
What's up?
I'm live streaming.
I'm sorry, I'm not interrupting while you guys are getting dressed, am I? Okay.
I mean, you're not interrupting. I'm getting dressed. You are here.
Nice to see you. Thank you for all your help.
One of our campmates just arrived. Anyway, if you hear the noise, it's the joy of arrival. So white linen, a white linen coif, white linen veil, and if you're really heat sensitive, then soak those in water before putting them on your head, and then you get the full impact of evaporative cooling. Stay in the shade, portable shade. I know parasols are like, parasols only come into existence in Europe in like the end of the 16th century, but use a parasol, create your own portable shade, stay out of the direct sunlight as much as possible. So those are my tips for heat. And linen, you want your linen undergarments for certain. White linen undergarments are your friend for heat. And you can, if you're really heat sensitive, then you can also wet your white linen undergarment before putting something on top of it, and then you get full evaporative cooling. Layers and linen, and if you're super heat sensitive, then stick to just linen. Don't do artificial fibers at all, and definitely don't do silk, because silk, if it's humid, silk is not the best fabric choice. Silk is fine in dry climates, even in heat, but in humidity it can get a little stuffy. So those are my heat survival tips. And remember to drink water a lot more than you would normally. If it's hot, lots of water. Yeah, that was yeah, so it's really funny. The recent heat waves are not hitting here, which is great. So good morning, I'm live streaming. I'll be done in a moment. So my lady in waiting arrived, our fellow campmate arrived. So this is the overlayer. This is my kirtle from yesterday just fell off of its drying rack. Okay, so this is the gonella. You might recognize this from certain Botticelli paintings, also portraits. And this is just kind of a nice light, very light silk, sort of silk gauze overgarment. And this is actually hand woven that I wove myself, silk trim, my very first ever weaving project many years ago. And so that's it. I am now going to have my hair done and put on some shoes and go get some breakfast. So are there any questions before we part ways? That has been today's, or at least this day's live stream. Probably I think we might be doing a Contessa clothing clinic later this afternoon, because one of my ladies in waiting is in dire need of sleeve cap assistance, arms eye assistance. Otherwise, if you are watching this, please do remember to leave, and you're enjoying it, please leave a thumbs up. And once it posts, please leave a comment, because that really